Hello, everyone. This is Ted Townsend, President and CEO of your Greater Memphis Chamber. We're really excited to have you on today, and I know many more will start to filter into the Zoom this afternoon. But we're very grateful to have this opportunity to talk to you about the work of MemMeasures, and certainly you'll hear more from our team led by Tikora Murray, who's our Executive Director of the Greater Memphis Economic Research Group, and Gwen Fisher, who's our Chief Economic Development Officer at the Chamber. But I would like to just remind everyone of the why. Why do we measure economic data? It might not be the most exciting thing on your agenda for the week, but to us, we live and breathe it every day. And we have launched a Prosper Memphis 2030 plan that will allow us to recognize a completely different economy for Memphis. And when I take you into the future on New Year's Eve of 2030, we want to ask ourselves, what did we do? And how did we get there? And the only way you can answer those questions is to measure the progress over time. We have set bold goals and initiatives. We have a plan, a strategic plan to prosper in the economic environment of tomorrow and a host of tomorrows. But it's a plan that is measurable, it is data driven, it's deadline driven, and it's truly realistic. And what is realistic is our expectation that we create an economy of innovation that is shared and felt by all of us in this region. We cannot leave any census tract or zip code behind. And that is why we have built a catalog of data that allows us to understand the impact of the work we do at the Chamber and to ensure that everyone has access in economic mobility. For us to be in the top in our nation, we have to strive every day to reach these goals. And what you're going to learn today is that we have a dashboard. We have a starting point to measure. And this dates back to our work with Brookings. But this dashboard of 31 indicators that we hope becomes the community's dashboard represents opportunity, promise, and absolutely sobering challenges. And for us, that is what motivates the Greater Memphis Chamber team each and every day to stratify initiatives, to do everything that we can to ensure that Prosper Memphis 2030 is just that. It's a prosperous Memphis when we get there. And we know that across the country, almost all economic growth that you can measure is being driven by advanced industries. And these industries involve areas such as automotive and assembly, aerospace, advanced electronics, battery technologies, semiconductors, robotics, artificial intelligence, and advanced machinery. And what we're simply saying is that we want Memphis to be the nexus of that kind of industry mix. We have so many other great strengths and benefits, but we know that we must continue to diversify and to bring in high quality jobs. We know that advanced industry is going to deliver on those. What I'm encouraged about is the growth that we've already seen. And in fact, out of the 31 indicators, 70% are either sustaining or improving, but we have so much work to do because we still, among our peer cities, rank 10th or last in 8 of the 31 indicators. And while that is disheartening, I'm encouraged by the fact that 75% of those last place rankings were actually improving our economic condition. And that is the work of your chamber. And I can't thank you enough for investing in who we are as a group. Your investment enables and unlocks the ability to procure, to curate, to assemble data, and most importantly, to humanize it so that you all understand where we're going and how, most importantly, you contribute to our mission to create a Prosper Memphis for all. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Tikora Murray, who will walk you through the MemMeasures 2.0. And I'm excited for what you're going to learn. And this is the start of many conversations that we hope to have with you so that you also can become data experts on our economy. Tikora?
Thank you, Ted. And thank you all for joining us today. So let me go ahead and share my screen.
While she's doing that, hi, Gwen Fisher, Chief Economic Development Officer. We do have a chat function available on the Zoom platform, and we'll be monitoring that. We already have one really great question around the impact of culture and the arts that we will get to with this. So we encourage everyone who's participating to leverage that chat function, and we'll make sure we get to all of those. Thank you. Tikora?
Thank you, Gwen. So again, my name is Tikora Murray. I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Memphis Economic Research Group. We also call ourselves GMERGE for short, because that is quite a bit of words to jumble up. But I am happy to share with you all our MemMeasures Volume II report. So today, we're going to discuss what is MemMeasures, what does resiliency look like for Memphis, how does that align with the Greater Memphis Chamber's Prosper Memphis 2030 goals and strategic plan, and why this report is important to our community. So basically, the MemMeasures report is a comprehensive report that looks at a set of metrics. We have 31 metrics that serve as our economic indicators. This measures the health of the Memphis economy. It also helps us measure our economic performance and how well we're doing among peer cities that are similar to Memphis. This data in the report looks at the years 2019 to 2021, and we utilize several different data sources. For example, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Bureau of Economic Analysis, the census data, ACS, which is the American Community Survey.
I'll add here that this is the most up-to-date available data from the federal government. As the agencies that Tikora just spoke about release data for 2022, we will continue to update. So.
Yes, thank you, Gwen. So to Gwen's point, we will be updating this data probably here, hopefully by midsummer, but they recently released 2022 data for all of those data sources. So we will be updating, and just stay tuned. I'll talk more about that further on in the presentation. So in order for us to analyze the economic health of the Memphis MSA, we need to understand what our stressors are on the community so we can build and maintain a resilient community for the future. So you might be wondering, what are those stressors? So stressors, they are long-term conditions that gradually weaken the community's well-being over time. So examples of that would be deteriorating infrastructure, so roads worsening, blighted neighborhoods and buildings infrastructure, lack of affordable housing, food insecurity, persistent poverty, social injustice, declining education systems, and endemic crime. So why is it important for us to understand these stressors? It not only helps us measure and understand the Memphis economy, it also gives us the blueprint on how to build and maintain a resilient community. So according to the U.S. Economic Development Administration, EDA, resilience is the ability to prepare for threats and hazards, adapt to changing conditions, and withstand and recover rapidly from adverse conditions and disruptions.
So I'll give an example of that here. Why is resiliency so important? Why does it matter to all of us? When the Great Recession hit, it took Memphis almost 10 years to recover from everything we lost during the Great Recession. 2 years slower than the rest of the country. Now, fast forward to the pandemic, and Memphis recovered 6 months faster than the rest of the country. That means people were back at work sooner. Our economy was generating goods and services and revenue, and we have returned to a more stable economic environment faster than anyone else. So resiliency is really important. It's almost more important than actual straight performance, but it's something that we are really excited to help bring to you today.
Yes, so resiliency, it ties into our Prosper Memphis 2030 initiative, which is the Chamber strategic plan. The goals outlined in this plan are our actionable targets that are grounded in the insights provided by the MemMeasures report. So this alignment of strategic vision with data-driven analysis forms a powerful union that empowers stakeholders to adopt innovative strategies that help respond to current economic conditions and also help prepare us for any future challenges. Some of our goals here are listed: to create 50,000 high quality net new jobs, attract 700 new advanced industry companies, and award 20,000 STEM credentials annually. So MemMeasures outlines key metrics that help us navigate what type of stressors are impacting our community and what helps feed into our Memphis Prosper 2030 initiative. This report is broken out by 3 pillars. The first is economic foundation, and this looks at metrics that define our economic stability and also job access. The second is our economic enablers, and this looks at metrics that define our drivers of growth and diversity. And then the third is our economic outcomes. So this measures our overall success and prosperity and ensures that we have an inclusive economic growth and shared prosperity in the Memphis MSA. So the community that we look at in this report is the Memphis TN MSA. So that includes the 8-county region within Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas. 3 counties in Tennessee: Shelby County, Tipton, Fayette, and then Mississippi: Tate, Tunica, DeSoto, and Marshall, Arkansas, Crittenden.
And I'll add here that we all know our metro area is actually bigger than this. We have people driving in from Haywood County, in from Forest City, Arkansas, things like that. But the federal government releases data on these 8 counties alone. So that's why we chose those.
And so now that our community is defined, the communities that we benchmark ourselves against in this report are metropolitans that have similar populations as the Memphis MSA. So communities with populations of 1 million or more. So we compare ourselves to New Orleans, Nashville, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Milwaukee, Louisville, Birmingham, Indianapolis, and St. Louis. So this is just a preview of what the MemMeasures dashboard will look like. It will be available on our website in the next couple of weeks. It's an interactive dashboard that allows you to filter information by economic indicators underneath each of our 3 pillars. This dashboard serves as an additional tool that will be updated annually with the most available data. And we're really excited for you all to get your hands on it. So the MemMeasures report and the dashboard, again, they serve as tools for our community so we can build a resilient community together through driving economic development efforts to attract investment and foster a thriving business environment. Also to strengthen our workforce initiatives to help guide workforce development efforts to match local industry needs through analysis of employment trends and skills. And also benchmarking our success. It helps us understand our baseline metrics and to aid in tracking our progress over time. If we are moving the needle in the metrics that we're measuring, are we improving as a community?
And I'll say we're getting some great questions in the chat. Keep them coming. We are going to get to all of them. Thank you.
So this is an overview of the MemMeasure indicators that we're tracking. As Ted mentioned earlier, we are seeing improvement between improving and sustaining. It's 70%. So over half of our 31 economic indicators, we're seeing improvement from the year 2020 to 2021, and this is great. So about 16% haven't seen any increases or decreases, so that's good. 29% are worsening. However, they're by slight margins, not by any huge gaps. So here's some of the findings that we found. We look at cost burden households, so housing burden, which is our households that spend 30% or more on their housing costs. It is worsening. This is an area that we need to focus on, but it had increased. Well, there was a slight increase of 1.3% from 2020 to 2021. And this could be due to the pandemic or inflation. So this is just something just to keep our eyes on. It rose to 29.3% in 2021, and we had a ranking of 10 among our peer cities.
So let's talk for a second, if you'll go back, about why that's important, housing costs. You hear about other cities having very high housing costs. I mean, good luck buying a house in Nashville. And you see that here, but what makes this different and so important is we're not necessarily measuring the housing cost, but a percentage of your income that has to go to housing, because that is a measure of your larger economic vitality. And what we see here is that too many Memphians are having to spend too much of their paycheck on housing, no matter what it costs. And our housing runs 10 to 30% below the national average. So where can we identify these gaps and start to close them so that when we get Memphians bringing home high quality paychecks, the right proportion of their income is going to housing? So, thanks.
So some other key findings that we are looking into are food security and commuting. So households having limited or uncertain access to adequate food, it decreased from 15.1% in 2020 to 14.7% in 2021. So we are improving. So we might be peering our peer metros. However, this shows that there is some improvement in households getting access to food, which is great. Looking at the commute metric, there was a slight increase in the population living closer to jobs. So it was a slight increase. However, that increase can suggest that people are moving closer to where they work or finding jobs just that are closer to home. Looking at economic performance, we looked at GRP. We've seen significant increase in the gross regional product per capita growth, and that's looking at the economic output of the region. So that is great. We're doing excellent there. Traffic congestion fluctuations, they increased slightly. However, we are ranked 5th among our peers. This allows us to be attractive to new talent outside of the Memphis MSA to locate here if they're wanting to not sit most of their time in traffic to get from point A to point B. We also are seeing improvement in our broadband connectivity. We've seen an increase of almost 8% of the population getting access to broadband. And I think it's going to continue moving up.
Yes, we all have heard about some fantastic broadband projects that are coming out of the ground right now. And broadband connectivity really is as important to our economy now as electricity was 100 years ago. It is that important to be able to be connected in your economy. So we're really excited to see broadband continue to grow.
And then we looked at job market and income inequality. We monitored that as well as some measurements that fall into the economic enablers pillar. So we seen advanced industry job growth. We had significant growth in this area. Memphis ranks first among all of the peers in 2021. That's going back to the Prosper Memphis 2030 goals. We're looking to grow advanced businesses and jobs in the region and looking at STEM occupations. And we're seeing the needle move towards the area that it needs to move and continuing this growth.
So I'll say this from an economic perspective, economic vitality and health. This is the one we want to be number one in. This is a great starting point because these high quality jobs are what can drive so many of our other measures that we're right about to get to. So we are thrilled to be number one, and it just really inspires us to get up to number one in more and more and more of these metrics.
Yeah, and to go off of that, Gwen, like in order to keep recruiting these types of companies to the area, we have to have a talented workforce. And it's really crucial for us to really tie that into like educational attainment and just even like workforce initiatives of trying to develop our community into falling into the skill sets or navigating their way into the skill sets to feed these jobs. And also overall that will increase those high quality jobs, better paying jobs. And I think overall that will keep our community very attractive to those new other industries to come in and allow us to create that diverse industry, I guess, landscape for the Memphis area. So it's very crucial, like you said, Gwen. So looking at, some of our challenges also, there's an increasing income inequality. The Gini coefficient rose slightly from 2019 to 2021, but slightly. That just shows that from a scale from 0 to 1, the number closest to 0, it means that there's no inequality. Everybody's making the same. The figure closer to 1 shows that there's like a large gap in income inequality. And we're like not even over the half margin, but we're creeping up on it. And that just shows that there is an increasing income inequality. In our report, we also look at like inclusivity measures that look at people of color and like the poverty rate gap and stuff. So when our report does go live next week, you all will be able to really dive into the metrics and see what those differences are. We looked at median household income growth. It increased to 56,926 in 2021. However, we do lag behind national trends. I think it's by like $14,000. But that's another place that we can continue improving. And then we've seen improvement in the poverty rate gap. It decreased by 1.2% from 2019 to 2021. So these are good things. We are moving the needle in the right direction.
I'll say it's about closing those gaps again. Oftentimes economic health is measured in straight numbers, and we as a team and as a community are truly committed to prosperity for all, and all means closing gaps. And so that's why we look at the data that way. That's why we're following it that way, because we want everyone to not only have the opportunity, but the benefits of the work.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, overall, MemMeasures definitely serves to be that tool to help monitor those metrics to see if we are closing those gaps. So MemMeasures provides a thorough overview of the Memphis economic landscape, essentially, and it helps us identify where we're making progress and where we still have challenges. For example, job access and educational attainment are some areas that we found challenges in. Addressing those critical challenges, those gaps, like Gwen was saying, they're there, specifically in education and economic inclusivity. So it highlights the urgent need for some targeted initiatives. And then, going into the job access and being an inclusive economy, definitely need to focus on educational transformation as a strategic necessity. So we can enhance those education programs to develop a skilled workforce and to help us continue attracting those advanced firms into our region. And then lastly, this report helps with like data. Like we definitely need to focus on data-driven decision making. MemMeasures serves as that type of tool, so we can continuously track how we were doing compared to how we're doing now, and hopefully forecast how we will be doing in the future. So it definitely helps with strategic discussions for stakeholders to gain some actionable insights moving forward. So overall, I hope you all get the opportunity to read our MemMeasures Volume II report. As I said earlier, it's a comprehensive report that looks at 31 different metrics, and nationwide, communities are looking at trying to identify what type of metrics they need to analyze and review over time to see if they're becoming a resilient community. And it's awesome that we have the opportunity that we are already ahead of the curve tracking these metrics, where a lot of communities across the US are now just trying to define what resiliency looks like for their community, because resiliency will look different for each community because every community is different. But Memphis already is identifying our problem areas, the challenges that we're facing, but we're also navigating like that we're making progress and moving in the right direction with the different decisions that we make collectively. And it's a community response. So thank you.
It is. This is truly a community effort, and we're so excited to have this data that we'll continue to update. And then, as Tikora mentioned, we will be launching a public-facing dashboard. I want to take a second and get to some of these fantastic questions that have come in. And Ted, I want to tee up the first one to you because it's a question about the strategic plan and the metrics. How are arts and cultural heritage included in this work? And is the strategic plan available for the general public?
So 2 parts. Yes, the strategic plan is available to the public. We're happy to get you a copy of that. It's called Prosper Memphis 2030. Arts and entertainment is a critical economic sector for our economy. And so we see the industry around arts, entertainment, which involves all of the mediums culturally that define Memphis as who we are. We use the arts and culture in our narrative. We truly incorporate that in all of our interactions, whether we're talking to an existing business who's considering whether or not to continue to invest here. But in particular, with the new companies that we are recruiting here into Memphis. Memphis is a global brand. We have introduced a lot of arts and culture that have influenced the world and still is influencing the world. And so we see it as a critical component of the output of economic development. Now, is it reflected directly in our strategies? We focus more on the business and industry aspects of arts, entertainment, music. We are supporters of what it means to create here, but we want all of this to be artist centric. We want to make sure that we build the wrappers around the arts and those that are creatives in our economy, and so that we retain them here because they become true assets to what we use to sell Memphis. And so yes, I hope that answers the question. Are we measuring data and output of arts and culture? No, not in this mechanism. But we do infuse the impact of arts and culture in the overall success story of economic development. And that is what influences all of these 31 indicators. When we have more advanced industries seek to place their operations in Memphis because we are so well-rounded, we know that we're coming into a community that has incredible global impact in arts and culture. We want to be here. We want to invest in that apparatus of arts and culture. And oh, by the way, when we do that, we know that we're creating high quality jobs that will provide for increases in median household income and closing the poverty gaps. And so it's kind of this virtuous cycle eventually. So I'll pause there.
And thank you, Ted. Great answer. And what I will also add, Ted referenced the data on the importance of arts and culture. You'll notice that this dashboard is not industry specific. We're looking at our holistic economy. GMERGE produces another series, another body of work that are industry deep dives. And we take a look at the entertainment industry, and we're going to actually revise it to better capture how much of a gig economy that is. But I would encourage you to visit our website, memphischamber.com, and go to the GMERGE portion of it. Or if you can visit memphischamberreports.com. I'll say it again, memphischamberreports.com. That's where our industry deep dives are. They are updated annually, and it is a wealth of information. So great question. Let's move on to the next one. It goes to you, Tikora. We talk about wanting to get to 50,000 high quality jobs. How do we define high quality job? Because we do define it. We're not winging it.
Yeah, no, high quality jobs, and this is something that we've assessed. It's in line with how the state also defines high quality jobs. But here in Memphis, we take into consideration that we are a minority majority city. So high quality jobs are jobs that pay more than the living wage. So anything that is over $15 an hour. And then also making sure that people of color are getting these opportunities to fall into those jobs.
Great. Thank you so much. And next question that we have, and I'll let it go to either of you. Of the cities and communities in which we benchmark, are any of the others also majority minority cities? And then I'll get to the second half of that question in a second.
Yeah, I have not, which is odd. I have not looked into that. And that is something that I think is the next step of our MemMeasures report, is to start identifying different metropolitan areas across the US that are minority majority. Because thinking about the list, I think we might be the only one, but I think it would be very interesting just to start monitoring how we are measuring up to those similar communities as well. However, based on this report, we're just laying the foundation and seeing like metropolitans that are a similar size that normally will have like similar aches and pains and common issues. However, that's a really good insight to kind of view the data in that lens, and I think it will be something that we will be doing a deeper dive as we move forward with this research report.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, out of this grouping of 10 cities, you could look at a Birmingham, a St. Louis, and New Orleans for some closer comparisons to that. But again, we will be happy to dig in to that data. Obviously, we're looking at ourselves, yes, through a comparative lens, but just one of those that we track is the share of IT jobs held by people of color. That's one of those where Memphis ranks number one, but New Orleans is number two. Birmingham is fourth place. St. Louis is middle of the pack. So it just depends on the metric, right? But again, I think that's a really interesting perspective, and that again is what we want to unlock. You can impute data 1,000 different ways, but we want to humanize it. So we're telling our story, but we also understand other communities that we're competing against and their story.
Thank you so much, Ted. We're going to pivot just a little and move this, and I think we're going to start with Ted on this question. We talk about being number one in advanced industry job growth, and that's great. That's the first part of our theory of change. But another and equally as important part is about making sure that our residents have the skills to get and keep these high quality advanced industry jobs. So what is the chamber doing to address that portion of the equation?
Yeah, so we have identified that the best path forward is to accelerate the attainment of these skills that are relevant to advanced industries. We're continuing to work with all of our partners at every level of the education continuum to develop those rapid credential and certification opportunities within their own curriculum, embedding more certifications and degrees, whether it's an associate's or a bachelor's. What we're looking at is targeting the adult population of Memphis with an upskilling evolution. And that is truly an accelerated model where anywhere from 8 to 20 weeks, individuals are going through rigorous curriculum. And at the end, they have a relevant credential or certification for that industry sector. And in this case, we're targeting the advanced industries. We're targeting the supply chain and logistics technology side of the spectrum, and also construction and skilled trades. But we know that we have to play a significant emphasis on STEM skills because these companies are expecting that kind of quality of skills attainment. And they're telling us, look, we don't necessarily expect everyone to have a 4-year degree or even a 2-year degree. We are valuing skills. And so we have that mechanism that truly is a best practice. And we know that it's a race. So we have to provide full wraparound services for individuals. We know that the challenges are great. We have to meet people where they are in their neighborhoods and communities, and build that concierge level of services, wraparound services, childcare on site, you name it, and then put them on these paths where we are investing in their skills. They're not out of pocket any cost. And then they end up in literally 20 weeks transforming their lives and that the earning potential that they have in their households. So that's what the chamber is doing, is applying that methodology here. And we love to see these kinds of rapid credentialing centers all over our community.
I couldn't have said it better. I totally agree. Really not only meeting our population where they are, but meeting industry where they are as well. So thanks so much for that, Ted. Let's pivot to some questions that really dive back into the data. This one I'm going to read verbatim because it's a great one. So how does this, and this is for TCORA, how does this data compare to other indexes like the St. Louis Fed's Financial Stress Index that measures the degree of financial stress in the markets and is constructed from 18 weekly data series, 7 interest rate series, 6 yield spreads, and 5 other indicators?
Yeah.
So, Ticor, if you can talk about how this compares to their data, please.
So we don't incorporate the financial stress of the community. We have a few metrics that briefly touch on it, but we don't do a deep dive in how they navigated stress on their financial stress index. I think that would be something that we could look into in the future, in addition to what we're already measuring.
Yeah, I if I had to guess, I think that question came from my good friend Douglas Scarborough, who is head of the Fed here locally. And this is what's interesting, right? This is where the data in our community can intersect. And if there are other resources that we can pull into that are influencing the outcomes of what our dashboard is revealing on Memphis's economy, then that to me is a great source of creative collisions of data where they can have even deeper meaning and impact. And we can get really surgical and tactical about marshaling resources that improve all of these indices. And once we do that, then you look, our expectation is to be in the top 3 places of all of these indicators. And when we are, we know that all of those other indices are going to be impacted and affected by it as well. But Douglas, if that was you, thank you for the question. And we would love to work with your team on the data analysis.
Yeah, because I recall that index looks at like market prices, and we don't even touch that. So, yeah.
Right. But those market prices do impact the household level, right? So if we close the gap on poverty, income inequalities, all of these things, and we focus on a median household income that is producing discretionary income, then it's one impact after the other. It's a direct corollary.
Great, thank you so much. So it sounds like we already have a great action item coming out of this.
Yep.
I'm going to address one quick question, and then we're going to dive into a specific area. But we had a question about getting the data for the current year and prior year. No surprise, federal government runs a little slow, and we only use not only federal, but we use federal data sources for this so that we can have full transparency on our data and 100% confidence in the validity of the data. And we expect those data for the next years to be coming out over the course of the summer. As we get updated data, we will update not only the MemMeasures, but more importantly, that public-facing dashboard. So when you get that link next week, as we get that out there in the coming weeks, please bookmark it, because that's going to be your go-to source. So great question on the data. We're as hungry for it as you are. So I'm going to combine a couple of questions, and Ticor, ask you to talk about, we had a question around a definition of a median household income, and whether it is the same for a Black family, a white family, or a Latino family. And then we also had a question around a Memphis livable wage. Some would actually say that is $15 is a little low, and it's very dependent on family size. So Ticor, if you could talk a little bit about median household income and livable wage, please.
Okay, so the median household income, and this is based on the census definition. That's where that metric came from. We do have metrics. So the census doesn't have, we found that the metric, so the census, out of all of our indicators that we're looking at, didn't really have it broken out at that granular level, looking at it by race. However, for household income, we do monitor that. And I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I'm trying to find it.
Sure. On the median household income, the numbers that we're using, is that for a family of 4? And what are the differences when you break it out by demographics for white families, African-American families, and Latino families?
Okay, so I don't have the data in front of me, and that's something I can, we can eventually break out into the dashboard if we really want to do a deep dive and looking at what ethnicities are being touched by these metrics. But a household is generally a family of 4. So yes, that's how the census defines it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. These are all great questions. And I'll add just a little bit, because one of the things we talk about when we were talking about high quality jobs and wages and household incomes, there's a lot of ways to skin that cat. And one of the things we look at, and it aligns with some of our state and federal partners looking at it as well, is going to be a median county income, or a median income for a county. And really using that as a bar for high quality if it's above that median, because that gives us some breathing room to fluctuate, not only across the 8 counties that are included here, but over time. So we look at that too. And then we had a question again around a $15 livable wage. And is that what this report considers a livable wage, or is there a source for that?
So there is a source. MIT has a calculator called the Living Wage Calculator, and I can share that here in the chat. And I think it's something that everybody should check out. I think they recently, since we've done the report, have updated the figures. But yes, it's just based on the high quality net new job, or like high quality jobs, we look at this MIT's calculator just to kind of gauge on what's a livable wage.
Okay, great. So if you could put that link, you can do it as a question or however it needs to go in the chat. But to the folks that are asking around livable wage, I'll go back and say again, we wanted to make sure that our data is 100% transparent. And these are the kinds of questions we want to challenge our community, and we want to set the bar higher. So thank you for that question around livable wage. We'll put that source in there, and I encourage you to check it out as well. So we have time for one final question before we close out for the day. And that is around, and this is going to be primarily for Ted. You talked a lot about the accelerated skills training and what a ripe opportunity that is. And again, the data and the practice have shown us that Memphis is so well suited for that. But we do have a number of colleges and universities in the area as well. And so how are we working with colleges and universities to prepare that workforce?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'll highlight the University of Memphis and their shepherding of the Good Jobs Grant, which came from the Economic Development Administration. That's a 20 million plus opportunity to fortify our workforce here and get them prepared for the name of the grant itself, Good Jobs. I would also like to highlight Dr. Elena de la Vega's work at the University of Memphis and her deep research on poverty and its impacts in our community. And I think that's yet another intersection of our dashboard and data with her research and understandings of the impact of poverty in our community, and understanding at that granular level, taking into account various ethnicities and backgrounds. Our focus is that we're preparing an opportunity for anyone, no matter their socioeconomic background or educational attainment, that they can walk through the doors of one of our accelerated training centers and be on a path for economic mobility through skills attainment in a rapid way. And we see the universities and colleges as critical partners in all of this. Everyone has to be an active participant. It can't just be one university or one college or one college of applied technology. It must be the full ecosystem, fully engaged, focused on meeting industry needs and producing curriculum that is directly related to someone being able to acquire these skills, test out, have the credentials, certification, and immediately go to work and create value for themselves as well as for the company. So that's how we're partnering. We've gone through exercises, whether it's through Aspen or full DACM exercises with Ohio State University to understand what it takes to be a machine operator, and then developing that playbook and sharing it throughout. And it's also with our school systems. They're a critical piece of this as well.
Great, thank you so much. We did have a couple of questions we weren't able to get to today, and we know who they're from, so we'll try to follow up with those. And I believe we will also share out the link that was referenced on the MIT calculator in our follow-up email to everyone. So thank you again. This has been really fantastic. We so enjoy the interactive component of this. And with that, Ted, I'll ask you to close us out.
Yeah, thanks, Gwen. Thanks, Cora, and thanks to all of you for your attention. I see we still have 56 participants. We're grateful for your interest and audience. We don't take that lightly. And mind you, this is all a very dynamic thing. This dashboard has not been out there very long, and we're always looking to improve it, enhance it, and make it meaningful. Again, data are only so good unless you can understand what to do with it and truly translate that into impact and outcomes. That's why we measure. So I will remind you that we want you to be active participants. This isn't a one-off. We want this to be the community's dashboard, and your input is absolutely mission critical to us engaging and understanding, enhancing, improving, and really ultimately we want all of us to be a part of the success that we know we can get to. So thanks again for your investment in the chamber. It really matters, and it unlocks a potential like today to share with you the data that we are very privileged to assemble and then produce that out to the public for your understanding. So with that, thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you all a great rest of the week. And I will leave you with this. I ask myself this and our team every day, what did you do to make Memphis greater? And if we all answer, yes, we did make Memphis greater, then that truly will become the reality. And so just keep that in the back of your minds always. Did I make Memphis greater, or how did I make Memphis greater? So thank you all very much for your time and attention today. Be well.
Thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you
great day.
all.